Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining the Know to Grow, a light to heavy duty podcast with Bill Black of National Fleet Management. Bill is going to share his insight today on growth and how he is driven to get his company to $1 billion. We'll go into some of the detail behind this and let's get going. Bill, thank you for joining today.
Thank you for having me, Chandler. Yeah, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your story
Sure.
and how you built the company up to what it is now.
Sure.
And we'll jump in.
Well, I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York. After high school, I joined the Marine Corps. That's what led me to North Carolina. My last duty station was here in North Carolina. From getting out of the Marine Corps, went back to Buffalo for a short period of time, but then moved back here. Worked as a technician and had a really good experience at a small dealership group where we opened a new location. It was a new AOR. Those of you that know what an AOR is, it's a area of responsibility. So it had been open for 10 years. So what does that tell you? It tells you we had no customers. We had no trained team. We were basically starting from scratch. Not knowing what I was getting myself into, I was starting a business from scratch is what we did. And within 18 months, we were running 15 technicians, 2 shifts Monday through Friday, 1 shift on Saturday. We were very successful. But when you'd walk through our shop, we were a Volvo dealer. There wasn't a Volvo truck in the shop. Because there wasn't any Volvo customers there for 10 years.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, why are we so successful? We're scratching our heads. And we looked and we're like, man, we're an independent repair shop with a Volvo sign on the building. So that's where the vision for National Fleet, at that time, it was a vision for the company I was working for. And as we started to grow and help, I started to help in the other locations. We actually opened an independent repair shop. This is a dealer group, and we opened an independent repair shop because we were so successful. I seen that as a great opportunity and wanted to continue to grow. And the dealer principal at that time was like, well, slow down, cowboy. Things are going pretty good, and
take it easy.
Take it easy. Yeah, we're good. You're doing well. We're doing well. Let's just ride this for a while. And I didn't. I wanted to grow. I seen like, hey, this is something that's missing in our industry. It's very fragmented. The level of professionalism. Compared to like the automotive side just wasn't there. On the automotive side, you can go get your car repaired at an independent repair shop. It's very professional. They look professional, they act professional. It's just like going into a dealership service department.
Yep.
And it's just like a dealership. However, you just can't buy a car there. So my vision, that's where the vision for National Fleet, it sprouted, so to speak. I thought I was going to do it with that company, but after working there for about 10 years, I really had a fire in my belly to do something. I decided to step out on my own and start National Fleet Management.
Good for you.
Yeah. So the day we started, it was me and one other technician, and my mom was helping in the office, and my wife was helping in the office. And we had 1,500 square foot of flex space. It was National Fleet Management. So the vision 15 and a half years ago was always to take it across the country.
That's awesome. And how many employees and bays do you have now?
So right now we have about 60,000 square foot of shop space. Team members, we're close to 120, continually hiring every week.
That's awesome. Excellent. Well, we appreciate that. Tell us a little bit about the business,
Sure.
Products and services, and the geographic footprint.
Sure. So we have 4 brick and mortar shops. They're all in North Carolina currently, in Charlotte, Raleigh-Durham, Greensboro, and Statesville.
Yep.
The Statesville location also sells used trucks. And then we have a parts business in Wilson, North Carolina. Mobile trucks, we have about 34 mobile trucks currently. And they're in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, and Georgia.
Great. Yep. Excellent. And before we jump into some questions, talk about 2 kind of inflection points in the business. From 1,500 square feet to what it is now. Sure. What are 2 major growth points?
So I would say to the 2 major ones, I'd say there's really only one major one until now. We're anticipating the second one is what we've built an infrastructure for the past year and a half. And we are primed to go to, last year we did 25.3 million. We're primed to go to 400 million not 400, 100 million by 2028. So we've really built the company to scale right now. But the first inflection point was when we decided to separate mobile from the shops. We had been operating the mobile department underneath the shop so to speak. And what we were doing, we kept running into, we get about 3 to 5 trucks in an area, we'd hit a ceiling. We just couldn't go past that ceiling. And we're struggling to figure out, well, why is that? What's holding us back? So I did some research. I started studying some other companies, like Dickinson or Cox, whatever you want to call them now.
Mm-hmm.
TA, how did they go about, growing their businesses so rapidly? And what we found out was that they separated the shop from mobile, set up an infrastructure under each one. You put someone in charge of mobile, someone in charge of the shops, kind of one throat to choke there and one focus on, if you were doing mobile and I was doing the shop, you were focused on growing mobile, I'm focused on the shop. And when we did that, we grew in 2024, we grew over 40%.
Wow. Was that hard to implement? On paper, it doesn't seem that difficult. I'm sure it was, but to really separate the two businesses and have them operating kind of separate lines.
I don't think separating them was difficult. It's just a pretty simple process. When you map it out, it's just people and process. Mm-hmm. Where we struggled was on the culture side, taking, a handful of mobile guys off of a shop P&L. Now the shop's standing on its own and it doesn't look as pretty as it did before. And then, I would say that we got sloppy on the shop side because we had the mobile as a crutch.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, you have 4 or 5 mobile guys contributing to a P&L that you're really not managing. It makes you look better than you really are. Yeah. So that's been our focus this year, is getting our shops back on solid ground.
Good. Well, that's helpful. Obviously you're doing well now, right?
Thank you.
And, I want to understand and help our audience understand
why
Bill is interested in growing to $1 billion. Why not be content now? Why do you want to keep growing? Understand why growth is important to you.
Well, I would tell you, so my faith is a big part of who I am. Mm-hmm. So I believe that we're all created to do something. We all have God-given gifts and talents, and those were given to us to serve other people.
Yep.
So I believe too that I don't know what my capacity is. I don't know what I can do, what I'm capable of. So I believe that I should continue to grow and become a different person every day, like renew myself every day. The bill here's an obvious fact. Last year we did $25.3 billion or $1 million.
Yep. So
we'll get to 25.3. But so how many of those businesses I've ran before? I was a CEO of 0. Right. This year the goal is 40, and I believe we'll do that. Do you know how many of those I ran before? 0. So the game of growth and building to me is fun, and it also allows me to attract high caliber team members that want to build, because my dream has to be bigger than yours if I want you to work for me. If your dream is bigger than mine, you're not going to come to work for me.
Yeah.
So if I have a big dream, I can attract really high caliber, aggressive people that want to grow and create a really cool team of people that are doing cool stuff. Mm-hmm. So we like to say that we're not, I'm not for everybody when it comes to hiring people, and we'll probably talk about team and how do you attract and retain talent. But I don't hide that. I don't, if you're looking for a place for 9 to 5 and you want to coast and you don't want to improve yourself, we're probably not the best place for you. There's plenty of places that you could go and work, but this wouldn't be a good fit for you.
That makes sense. And it's a good segue into my next question, which was actually, how are you finding talent? It's a struggle in the industry, particularly people, younger generations, right? They kind of want it here and now.
Yeah.
Not really want to grow into their roles, for example.
Yeah.
How do you think through that?
So there's a couple questions there. You talked about the younger generation, then you talked about talent. So I'll start with, how do we attract talent? And that has been a struggle for us, but the struggle has been us trying to be something that we're not.
Yeah.
Trying to be what everybody wants. And I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago where I fully embraced and understand what the word alignment meant. Yeah. So right now, when I'm hiring people, especially if it's a manager, you'll talk to people that have interviewed with us. It's like, you haven't asked me anything about my job history, my skill set, or all that other stuff. You're just like general conversation. I want to see who you are. I want to see if we're in alignment with our values, our growth. What do we want? because you could have really good, smart people on your team, but if they're not in alignment with where you're going, it's not going to work. And I've made that mistake for years where I'd hire good, smart people, but they weren't in alignment with our goals and our vision. And I was looking at myself like, what am I doing wrong? Why is this person not being successful? And when I realized how important alignment was, first thing you have to do to attract and gain and retain talent is be authentic to what you expect this person to do and what you want. Mm-hmm. And if they don't fit that, don't pretend that you can change that person, because most of the time you can't. And then the younger generation, what we're finding is, the younger generation, they're either studs or duds. There's like nothing in between. They either come in and they're squared away. They know what they want. They want a career path. And if you show it to them and show them what they need to do, they will execute. Mm-hmm. And then there's other ones that are, they want to talk about Taco Tuesday and flexible schedules and things of that nature. And that's really not who we are. Where's the foosball table? Yeah. Do we have kegerators here? And that's really not who we are.
So that's kind of almost the labor side of things, right?
Yeah.
And then, here I'm at Bill's corporate office today. It's offsite from, where the service is being done. Bill had time to do the podcast. You obviously have to have some good general management,
yes,
middle management in place. And I know that can be a challenge too.
Biggest challenge we have.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how have you found reliable people? How have you sourced those people?
I don't know that we have that figured out, Chandler. Yeah. That is something that we've struggled with because of my background as a technician and working my way up. My tendency is always to pull somebody up, lift somebody up. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the person doesn't want to do that.
Sure.
And that's where I've struggled, is wanting something more than maybe that individual does, wanting to put that effort, because that's how I came up. So I think where we're doing a much better job, we have an HR director that does a fantastic job of understanding what people's goals and what drives them and making sure that they're a good fit for our company. So I don't know that we've got that figured out, but we are constantly, anytime because that middle manager, that general manager at the site level is the most critical position in our whole company. They're managing, if you think about it, they're managing expectations from 3 different directions. Most managers are managing from 1 or 2 directions. So they're managing the expectations of the customer. All our team, like our technicians and that, are all performance-based pay. So they're managing their expectations. Mm-hmm. So if they don't have work and they're not being efficient because we're not organized, that affects them. And then, of course, they're managing the company's expectations of profitability. So we like to say every transaction, there's a bullseye in the middle where everybody wins a little bit.
Yeah. So you're motivating them with performance-based compensation?
Yeah, performance-based compensation. And since the locations aren't at full capacity right now, we're struggling because you really need a builder and a maintainer.
Yeah.
Once the location gets to capacity, then you're going to need a maintainer. So it's almost like if you're a builder and I'm a maintainer, we bring you in until you get to about 75%, and then you hire the maintainer. It's like, all right, Chandler, start to hand this off to Bill because he's going to maintain it while you go start another one and get it to capacity. So we're still trying to figure all that out. I wouldn't say that we have it figured out. So I wish I had a good answer for you, because I'd say I'd have it figured out, but we're continually improving in those areas and evaluating, hey, if this person didn't work, what did we miss?
Sure.
Was it a selection process? Was it training? Was it onboarding? Or, did the person just not do what they said they were going to do?
Yeah, that's helpful for us to understand. And, obviously there's, many owner operators in the industry that deal with talent and the organizational strategy and motivating employees. So really help you. Really, thanks for sharing that. In terms of multi-location strategy, breaking out to a second location is obviously very risky for a lot of people. They're not comfortable with taking that on, particularly later in life. What has it done for you to spread out geographically? Obviously, there's only so much work you can do in one town or city.
Yeah.
So I want to understand that, and then kind of brand synergies and brand recognition.
Yeah. So our strategy for for brick and mortar locations is the Charlotte market. We believe we can put 4 locations. Raleigh-Durham, we think we can put 4 locations. This Greensboro, Winston-Salem, High Point area, they call it the Triad. We think we can put 2 locations. Yeah. You know, one in Hickory, one in Wilmington, and maybe one in Asheville. You know, and why do you say 4 in Charlotte? So when our first strategy was we'll put a really big location in each city. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, so where in the city do you put it? You can't put it in uptown Charlotte.
Of course, yeah.
When you wouldn't want to, and 2, they wouldn't let you. So, okay, we'll put it on the north side because that's where we're at now. We're up there by all the truck dealers. But there's a lot of trucks on the south side, and during rush hour traffic, it's going to take you an hour one way to get to the north side.
Yes. Yep.
Customers are not going to do that. Mm-hmm. They'll settle for poor service, pay more for it, but it's close to their location. Proximity is critical in our industry. The other thing that we found is there's a lot of good technicians that live on the south side of Charlotte, right? Are they going to drive an hour one way to work? No. Yeah. They're going to take a job that's 5 minutes from the house that has, I'd say we have some of the best benefits in the whole industry, that has maybe worse benefits or no benefits and less pay, but it's 5 minutes from the house. So that's where our strategy changed probably 5-6 years ago, where we said, okay, well, if we put a smaller shop in the 4 corners and then just absorb, because we don't focus on transit business, we focus on local business. Yep. And you focus on that 5-10 mile radius around the shop, you can be very successful. You can run a $5-6 million a year shop at about 20-25% EBITDA, and it's easier to manage. I can find a manager to run that facility a lot easier than I could find a manager to run a 20 bay shop where you have 50-60 people working there. It's a total different skill set. So that's how our strategy has changed, and that's how we think about growth. Right now, our focus is on, we have 3 levers this year that we're pulling. One of them is the shops, is maximizing our current facilities capacity and getting our systems and processes nailed down with excellence, because we have to do that. If we're going to duplicate this process, these locations, we have an operations manual, but we don't follow it the way that we should. Yep. So that's our focus. It's not adding locations right now. Once we nail that down with the 4 locations that we have, then we can go wherever we want, whenever we want. So we just pick where do we go next?
Yeah. When we think about EBITDA, and for those that don't know, it's earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. It's a very close metric to cash flow. A lot of what we see for smaller shops is kind of the 15% EBITDA margin, 12 to 15%. You mentioned 25-ish. Yeah. Has that number increased as you expanded, or have you done something kind of special to essentially minimize your cost of goods sold and expenses to increase that margin?
So it has not expanded yet because we built the infrastructure. So right now we are very SG&A heavy. Yep. Because we're built for scale. You know, when you're growing a company, it's like a stair step. You know, you push, you get to about 100-120% capacity. Everybody's about to blow a head gasket. Then you level off, add some support staff, get them geared up, and you say, all right, ready, here we go again. And you keep doing that. And what I've found as I've grown and I've learned about business is every stair that you go, those steps get more expensive. You know, when you're adding a layer of leadership of managers, that's one price tag. But when you're at a layer of leaders that have V's and C's in front of their names, and they don't have an immediate impact on the business, you know, now they want to hire managers and stuff. So this last round where we've added a layer of leadership that were senior leaders, what I would call senior leaders, it was very expensive, very, you know, costly to the EBITDA numbers and things of that nature. But now we're prepared to go to 100 million without adding any significant more overhead.
Are you growing through your own cash flow? Are you taking on debt? How are you thinking about that?
Yeah, currently we're not taking on any more debt. Mm-hmm. The last 2 years we took on more debt than we've ever taken on before. One reason was we bought 3 of our facilities in 3 years. So 21, 22, and 23, we bought facilities. One of them was also an acquisition. So during that process, anybody who's bought real estate knows that's a big cash suck out of the business. I had never planned to be a landlord. I'd always wanted to reinvest in my business.
Sure.
And what was happening, we have first right to refusal on all our facilities. And one of the concerns that we have in our industry is we can't just go rent some flex space or some office space. We need 14-foot doors. We prefer freestanding ceiling. I like to have at least 5 acres of property, and those aren't just everywhere.
Yeah, of course.
So after COVID in 2020, a lot of investors got out of the office building market and started focusing on our industry. So they're coming after ours. And I had relationships with all our landlords. They were really good relationships. And when I found out that these investors that were buying the properties were from Chicago, New York, and I didn't know them, I'm trying to do some research, like, okay, what is this relationship going to look like? And, it wasn't as comfortable, I would say, to do that. So we decided to buy the buildings.
Yeah.
And then the last acquisition we did, we pay cash for some inventory at the used truck lot. So there was a lot of inventory, and we've sucked a lot of cash out of the business over those 3 years. And that's put us in a position to get into some debt last year. But currently, we're growing without debt.
Good to hear. How should a smaller business owner, I don't know, 10 million in revenue, 15 million in revenue, think about taking on debt? A lot of the younger folks, maybe my age, they're open to that risk, but folks 50 and over tend to really not want to take that on, even though it could really benefit them. Mm-hmm. How should somebody be thinking about taking on debt? What is your perspective?
Well, I think it all depends on how savvy the person is with finance.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you're earning 12% on cash and you can borrow money at 6%, it makes sense. Mm-hmm. If you can manage that. Yeah. Most people can't manage that. Dave Ramsey's become a multimillionaire. He runs about a $500,000 or $400 million business based off of people to teach them fundamentals of not getting in debt, because they can't handle it. Not that so much that debt is bad, but people can't handle it. They can't manage it.
Sure.
And I think as long as the person that's doing it understands what they're doing, maybe has a good CPA or has somebody helping them through that, it makes sense. It makes sense to do it.
Yeah, I think for us, one of the, I don't know, there's kind of a demarcation between, I see owners doing less than 20 million in revenue and over. The ones that do and over, they really have good CPAs, cash flow. They have good insight into their own cash flow. They understand it. They understand the forecasts and kind of know how to manage that. And the ones under it, they're just not finance people. They're really operators. Yeah. And I can see it's a challenge.
Yeah.
And I certainly understand.
Yeah. And some people don't have, I wouldn't say the appetite, but that's not their goal. They didn't get in business to do that. They got into business. They got into it to be a lifestyle business.
Sure.
And that's what they're doing. And if I was running this as a lifestyle business, I would not be in debt.
Yeah. Lifestyle business is certainly not bad.
No.
You can run the business from your vacation home. Life's good.
Yeah.
You have time to spend with your family.
Yeah.
See a lot of that. Biggest return on invested capital for you?
Sure.
What does that look like for National Fleet Management?
It's people, invested in people. We do like leadership training. I would say over the last 5 years, I've spent over $1 million on leadership training, whether it's seminars, coaching, consulting. I've spent personally on myself $500,000 in the last 5 years.
Wow.
I spent almost $100,000 a year. Yeah.
Wow.
So like I said, I was a CEO of a $25.3 million company last year, and it wasn't because of just me.
Yeah.
Sure. So I've constantly have coaches that are, teaching me, holding me accountable. So I think that's the biggest return on investment. And I've watched, you hate to see somebody leave the company after you've invested in them, but when you see them go and be so successful what they're doing and get jobs that they would not have gotten had they not worked here, that's really why I do this, is to have a positive impact on other people's lives. I prefer that they stay here and use their skills while they're here. But if they don't, I don't know if you call it paying forward or what, but that's that's what I like to do. And that's what attracts people here. They know if they're going to come here, whether they stay here for a year or they stay here for 10 years, when they leave, they're going to learn an awful lot.
Yeah.
And what they do with that is up to them.
In your investment, it's more about leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
Investing in people, understanding how to motivate people. Is there any other disciplines that they're teaching through your training that you're doing?
Yeah. Most of it's personal accountability.
Okay.
Somebody can't lead. Like, I can't lead a team if I can't lead myself. If I don't have discipline in my personal life and in my job and what I do, then I can't hold you accountable to have a discipline. So really, a lot of what we do when it comes to leadership training it's servant leadership, and it's also personal accountability. And when I say servant leadership, I want to make this perfectly clear, because I get so frustrated sometimes when people talk about the purpose of leadership is to build more leaders. It's not. The purpose of leadership is to execute a mission.
Mm-hmm.
And I get very frustrated on LinkedIn, and where it's like, it's all about the team and all about, it's like you don't have a team if you don't have a mission.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a company, you don't have a team. And I get really frustrated, because you really need to take care of the company, the profitability, and the mission that you're trying to accomplish. Now, if you build leaders behind you, that's great, but that isn't why I'm a leader. That isn't what if I was reporting to a board of directors, they could care less about how many leaders I'm building, unless it's helping the mission.
Yeah.
So that needs to be, it needs to be, if I'm building leaders, I need to be building them to benefit the mission and the company, not to benefit the individual.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I see leadership get really, really confused about, the way that you grade a leader is by how many leaders that they created. I'm like, okay, how many leaders did George Patton? He was a pretty good leader. I don't know of anybody that you look at his lineage. I'm sure they're there, but in that case, I wanted him to win a war. I didn't want him to build leaders,
which was the mission.
Exactly.
So our audience knows who are you going through? Who's a service provider that offers that?
What's that?
The leadership coaching.
So we do multiple ones. One of them, I'd say the fundamental one, is Jocko Willink. If you're familiar with Jocko, it's a company. Jocko's a retired Navy SEAL.
Okay.
He has a book called Extreme Ownership and the Dichotomies of Leadership. And it's all about personal accountability. Those are the fundamental ones where you have, we'll send a technician, anybody that's showing potential to be a leader, a future leader, because it's all about the fundamentals. When you think about business and you think about leadership, it's very simple. There's fundamentals that you can't shortcut. You can't, there's no easy button. There's fundamentals that you just have to execute. And Jocko teaches those at a very, very high level. We've sent office people there. We've sent technicians. We've had them come out and speak on a Saturday. It's really expensive to have one of their speakers come in. It's 20, 30 grand. And that's not, it could be expensive to somebody. To me, it's a great investment. And since I'm paying it, we will invite customers. If you're a team member, you can bring your wife, you can bring your kids. Like if you have teenage kids that are kind of a little trying to figure themselves out, because I'm paying for it. So why not invite?
It's a sunk cost, right?
Yeah. The only additional cost is the food, and that's minimal. So I even had my pastor come one time. My pastor came one time to it.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great. I haven't heard that one before, so
really,
I like that.
Yeah.
But people that are actually spending that type of money, to do it, it's a big investment in yourself.
Well, a couple of things. If you think about it too, if you're teaching the same leadership philosophies, remember I told you how alignment was so critical for me. But if you're coming from a John Maxwell type atmosphere, and then this guy's coming from a Jocko atmosphere, and then somebody's coming from I don't know, name another one, Simon Sinek, not only do you have different terminology, like you're using servant leadership and this guy's using a different version of it. And we're not even speaking the same language. Mm-hmm. So, that alignment thing where we're all speaking the same language, communication is critical for us, that we're communicating and cascading down. at the same speed and speaking the same language.
Good. Obviously you're growing inorganically, right? I know you mentioned you made an acquisition or two.
Yep.
But acquisition strategy can play a large role into growth. And, I think everybody knows that. Is the whole buy versus build.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think about buying versus build? If you're buying,
mm-hmm.
it's immediate cash flow, right?
Yep.
If you're building, it takes time to get there.
Yep. So we're growing with both. I call it an opportunistic way of doing it. I'm not out like hunting deals.
Sure.
The deals that we've made, most of them came to us. I get calls from other shop owners that want me to buy their business all the time. And right now we're focusing on, like I said, those 3 levers, because it's easy to get distracted with something like that.
And repeat the 3 levers again.
So one of them is getting our shops to capacity.
Yep.
And executing our systems and processes with excellence. The mobile department, the goal this year was 35 trucks, and we're already just about there.
Right.
We've got 2 trucks coming this week. They should be here tomorrow. That'll put us at that number. So we may have to bump that one up a little bit. And then the other one is our parts business, getting it fully integrated into the national fleet stores, which we've not done a good job with that. So those are the only 3 levers. I'm not buying anything. I'm not doing any acquisitions. I'm not opening no locations until we nail those 3 levers. And the goal is to get those done this year. I believe we'll do that. And that's going to set us up for the next inflection point that you were talking about. You asked me about 2, I think, and I've only had the one. The one was separating. Now, the second one, we're on the precipice of, because once we nail down the shop operations, the systems and processes, then it's just, we're printing cash to invest wherever we want and be very focused.
Awesome. And then let's kind of wrap it up. I think,
Sure.
I want our audience to walk away, if they only remember one thing from this conversation is, how do you think
Mm-hmm.
about growing past the 10, 15, $20 million mark? How do you think bigger? How should they think bigger?
I think the key is I would say go away for the weekend, just you all by yourself, to a place where it's quiet, and just dream. What do you want? If you knew that you could be successful at anything or you couldn't fail, what would you do? And then think about that and think about what that feels like. And then you can you can reverse engineer that. Well, how to find somebody that's done it. If you want to be a 25 million, come talk to me. I'll show you how we did it. And I'll show you how to not make the mistakes, all these mistakes that I made. You could do it a lot quicker. And then I heard Tim Grover say this one time. He's talking about the price for success, the price for winning. You sacrifice, you have to be disciplined, you have to do all these things to be successful. And he says, if you think the price for success is too much, wait till you get the bill for regret. And what you don't want to do is wake up one day when you're about to retire and say, man, I wish I woulda. I wish I woulda. You hear a lot of people say on their deathbed, I wish I didn't work as much. I wish I didn't do this. I wish I would have spent more time with my family. I wish I would have done that. But they never tell you about the guys that were on their deathbed, or guys and women that were laying on their deathbed and said, I wish I would have started my own business. I wish I would have went for a second location. I wish I would have done these things. They don't tell you about those guys. They're always trying to put pressure on the guys that are growing their business and being aggressive, which I believe is what we're supposed to do. So
Awesome.
It's American dream.
Well, Bill, thank you so much.
Yeah,
for
thank
joining, the Know to Grow podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate having you on.
Thank you.
And hope you all enjoy this one.
Thanks, guys.